Welcome, everyone. My name is Helga Sabo, and I am part of the digital marketing team here at memoQ, and I'm going to be the host of today's webinar. Today's session will explore a very exciting topic, that is legal translation done right, the memoQ-Juremy integration. But before we will jump right into it, let me share a few housekeeping rules with you. So the presentation is going to be 40 to 45 minutes long. That is going to be followed by a 10 to 15 minutes Q&A session. We will kindly ask you to use the Q&A tab as it is displayed on the screenshot to ask your questions. Please do not use the chat to do so. The webinar is going to be recorded, and the recording will be available on our site approximately 1 week after the webinar. Also, we will provide answers later to those questions who will not be answered during the limited time frame of the webinar, and we will also provide them in a Q&A sheet to email. And now, let me introduce today's presenters. First, here with us is Adam Gaugat, Senior Product Manager at memoQ, who will begin the webinar with a more general introduction of memoQ and its integrations. The next, and I can say the main presenter today, is Robin Palotay, co-founder at Juremy, who will show you how the Juremy tool can save time and boost efficiency in both legal and technical EU translation. And at last but definitely not least, Zsolt Varga, our Senior Product Manager at memoQ, is also here with us today, and he will help in answering your questions during the Q&A session. And with that, Adam, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone. Let me try to take over the screen. I hope now everything is... You can see my screen, right?
Yes, we can.
Great. So, hello everyone, and have a great afternoon or have a good morning if you are in the US or elsewhere around the globe. Let's take a quick glimpse on the agenda today. So, as Helga already mentioned, we will review the technology ecosystem of memoQ, how we work with technologies, how we are shipping it or providing it to you through integrations, just as Juremy, the main topic today. And we will close this session with an open question and answer panel where you can fire us any question you want or you feel important. If you don't want to speak it out loudly, then please just drop it in the chat and we will also collect those questions. And let's go for the first topic today. Yeah, so technology. Technology is definitely something that is everywhere and everyone is talking about technology today. Namely, AI is the new kid on the block. It is not so new kid for us as localization industry active members. We are working with machine translation AI of the very same kind as today large language models are for at least 6, 7, 8 years maybe. And we know it is very capable. But today AI is something definitely very interesting. We are going to talk about how it works with memoQ, but definitely there are also other technologies that are just as important for us as linguists today and will play an important role tomorrow. Let's take take a step back and talk about the actual challenge we want to work with when talking about different technologies. The riddle we have to solve is very simple. We understand it very well. We have to deliver translations. We have to actually deliver it in ever-growing amount. Certainly, the AI capabilities, machine translation capabilities, that they are actually really providing great translation in many cases in huge quantity without further without huge costs. The volume expectations that we see as localization teams and experts are ramping up rapidly. But there is also another aspect that we have to take into consideration, and that is the quality expectation. It's not, two translations are not the same, or not definitely the same. There are good and bad translations, and quality is very important, and especially when we are talking about many legal text types. With all these three factors in place, it is already not so easy to handle, but we certainly have to consider the time and budget constraints that are making it even more challenging to do it. So let's take a look at how we are supposed to handle this situation. Before we go into the solution, let's take a deeper look into what is the task actually we have to do. What translation are we going to provide? So definitely not all the texts have the same function. So when we talk about the very broad phrase legal translation, legal documents or text, there are contracts, patents, just random documents where we have to check and translate to make sure that there are no risks inherently. The function of these texts are very different. The evidence is very different. So there can be translations that we provide that will affect millions, tens, hundreds of millions of people if it's legal, or if it's codification rules by the European Parliament, for example. But there can be even as a private company, you might have contracts that are affecting the future of your organization. Can be millions, tens, hundreds of millions, or even billions of dollars at stake that are actually embodied in the document that you are translating. On the other hand, there are certainly other documents where there is not so much value or risk at stake. So definitely you can consider different translation quality barriers or thresholds that your translation has to meet. As there are huge quantities of translation, you are not in the position to deliver all the translations at the best and uncompromised quality. So how you are going to work with this huge volume of text to be translated? Sorry. It makes sense to make different tiers based on the quality, and the different quality tiers can be addressed with the different combination of the technology and the human resources, people, linguists that actually work with that translation. As you are in the lower threshold, technology is much more intensively used. Actually, today it is possible to provide reasonable translation purely with using technology. With the combination of the different technologies, aided also by machine translation, purely technology-based translation is reasonable. And in many situations where risk and value at stake is low, it is absolutely necessary to consider this option and go for this option. On the other hand, certainly when there is premium uncompromised translation is expected, then you have to work with the linguists who are responsible and accountable and can ensure that the translation is actually flawless and perfect. There is also another aspect that you have to consider when you are considering how you are combining technology and people efforts in your translation. And what everyone is talking about, that yeah, the technology is getting better, 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 and better, and it is capable of going higher on these tiers of different quality levels. But what's very important is to understand that actually there is an underlying enabling process that is making this technology actually capable of providing better quality as we see it. And at the very heart of this enabling process are the linguists. The linguists working on the premium quality. Working on premium quality is actually the way you are making data, and that data, that linguistic data, is the one that machine translation AI is using. AI today is not artificial intelligence, it is machine learning based technology. That means that without proper data, machine learning is not capable of providing you great quality. And this is especially true when you are talking domain-specific translation. No machine translation engine will be capable of understanding what your business is, what your domain is, what was the latest product you launched or latest domain of legalization you covered in your government. But it has to be trained with that specific data to make sure that actually it is providing good translation, good quality, and it is capable of providing even better translation tomorrow. So with this circling of resources and efforts and returns, let's take a further step and understand and take a look at what was the way memoQ is delivering technology to you. memoQ is a capable vendor working with different technologies, both AI and traditional well-established technologies. As you are working with memoQ, out of the box, you are provided with all these technologies at hand. Certainly, you might also consider to use alternative technology providers offerings, and memoQ is just as great with working with other technologies. And the way we are capable of working with different technologies is that memoQ is a platform where many functionalities are also open to APIs, plugins, and SDKs. So different vendors, different technologies, even your custom technologies can be easily integrated to memoQ. This is just a short overview of how many integrations memoQ have to different technology vendors, from source content integrations to machine translation, from business management systems. There are more than 70 integrations that are already over there for you to work with. Certainly, there are also other ways to create new integrations or modify the existing integrations for your tailored needs. So let's take a short overview. memoQ is great when you want to jumpstart with your localization operation. As out of the box, memoQ is providing you all the essential technologies that you need. If you are looking for specific performance, specific use cases, or you trust other vendors, it is also memoQ is great with working with different vendors. Out of the box, we are providing integrations to several technologies. And as you are getting even more advanced in localization, or simply your industry is just expecting a highly complex workflow, memoQ is absolutely great with working with custom integrations, even custom solutions by us. I hand it over to Robin.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Let me take over the screen. So I'm Robin from Juremy, and I'm excited to be here with you today and present about the memoQ-Juremy integration with some quite fresh news. Okay. What are we going to hear about today? First, I would like to shortly tell you what Juremy is and what was the purpose, how it was conceived. Talk a bit about the underlying database that we are using and what is the value that we provide. Then we would have a bit of practical demonstration. Actually, not just a bit. There's probably too much to show, but let's try to get the main points through. If you have time, I can show you how to set it up and talk a bit about the future developments. And yeah, I encourage you to use the Q&A feature. Adam and Helga will be looking over, and so then we can also answer them after the presentation. It was Tima and I who founded Juremy 5 years ago. We are a lawyer linguist and software engineer, and Tima was at the time translating for various bodies of the European Union. And that involved a lot of reference lookup and terminology research, predominantly using EUR-Lex, which is the official corpus of the EU. It contains legislation, case law, preparatory documents, international agreements, and more. And if you used it, you know that finding actual bilingual passages in documents is a cumbersome process. It is not optimized for that use case. So we thought first for ourselves to improve it, and then later to provide it as a service publicly. So what we provide in memoQ terms is a quasi translation memory / termbase that is able to perform very quick searches in EUR-Lex, the EU's corpus, and IATE, which is the official interactive terminology of European Union, and perform this in all the 24 language pairs of the EU. Okay, so when would you want to utilize such a translation memory or such a term base? The first important factor is that you are working in a domain that is heavily regulated or affected by EU legislation. If you are translating legislation or case law itself, that's kind of a trivial example, but there are domains in our lives that we wouldn't think of, but the EU has vast amounts of legislation and texts and annexes about them, from pharma and medicine, of course, AI nowadays, banking and finance, but also machinery, agriculture, chemistry. Every aspect of our life are regulated in some sense and include ample documents. And what I brought you today, actually with Tima's help, is the new directive, the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, which is a hot topic. So you might be an in-house lawyer who needs to translate summary documents about some of these fields, or you might be involved in translating in some of these specific professional fields. Then what you want is to have access to great quality, reliable terminology resources, have it quickly to deliver quality results. So there were independent research that kind of found that in professional or institutional translation, approximately a quarter of the time is spent on reference research. So that's quite some time. If you can speed that up, you can save as much as a quarter of your time. And Before I go into more details and practice, I just want to flash you this screenshot so you can imagine how it all looks like. The Juremy plugin for memoQ, although technically it's a translation memory plugin, doesn't integrate in the traditional way, so far at least, into memoQ. Instead, you will have Juremy on the left side, for example, in the screenshot, running side by side with memoQ. And as you are translating in memoQ the way you are used to, you will also get results, either exact or fuzzy matches or other kind of matches, and terminology hits in Juremy. Okay, but before we go into that, let me go a bit more in depth about how Juremy is built up. So yeah, I already talked about the use case. It is important to add that, yeah, as Adam said, AI and AI pre-translated texts are more and more predominant, although maybe not in the legal or very professional field, because yeah, as Adam also mentioned, the experience there is that AI is not necessarily as much as a time saver than a different way of working. You still have to invest the work. But anyway, when you are presented with pre-translated text, you need eventually a non-AI solution, so a reliable resource where you can go and cross-reference what is translated with the original sources and terminology. And Juremy is also a very helpful tool during that review. We are performing various kinds of searches, from exact search to fuzzy matches. And in between, there are various categories like auto-completion of your query text or stamped search. And our motivation is that, we don't want you to go and retype your query and click filters on and off. Like, we want to give you a simple experience, like the Google of EU translation terminology. You enter your query text and we do all the hard work for you, checking various kinds of matches and bringing you the results. And it is important to call out that context is very important, because your term or phrase might depend on what is that specific domain you are working with. Like chemistry and tax law, they might share the same terms, but it's a very different context. So we not only provide you with the matches, but we also provide rich metadata about the context it is coming from, like the document, domain text, and so on, and also let you adjust your preferences based on these tags. The interface is very customizable, and in terms of results and their ordering as well. And you always have direct access to the original sources. You can be sure what you are getting and from where you can consult EUR-Lex or IATE directly. So the value we add is ultimately that you are working out of a database that is kept up to date. You don't have to maintain it yourself, load locally or keep it updated. And traditionally, that is not something that you can do with your CAT tool on the desktop, or sometimes even on the server. Like it's a pretty big data volume, and people have trouble, loading even a fraction of it locally. That's why we provide this service online. The databases themselves are reliable. They contain the peer-reviewed documents of the EU. And all this can lead to significant time savings that you can either enjoy and then spend on other tasks, or you can reinvest and do more searches and improve the quality even further. Were it not for Juremy, what would be your options in terms of publicly available data sources? Yeah, EUR-Lex and IATE are the main sources, and there are more domain-specific databases as well. And with memoQ, for example, you could download custom IATE data dumps and post-process yourself and filter for the segment that's interesting for you and try to load it as a term base. Or, for example, with the EUR-Lex corpus, there's the DGT translation memory corpus, which is a subset of EUR-Lex. DGT, the Directorate of Translation of the EU Commission, maintains them. And it is updated once a year, and it is really a subset of the document. So it's not the full body of the available documents there. And of course, it's still quite large to manage yourself. So we took these popular data sources and we are indexing them internally and making them available for very quick instant searches. EUR-Lex comprises more than 300,000 documents. It is growing day by day. And we are indexing all the important select sectors. If you're familiar, these numbers categorize documents. Sector 3 is legal acts. Sector 1 is treaties and so on. And IATE contains like 500,000 entries, and those expand to approximately 7 million language level terms, because each entry can have multiple languages and each language can have multiple terms. It is also a rapidly updated database that we keep indexed. Okay, so if you want to get started with the plugin yourself, we have manual page that describes the procedure step by step. You download, install it, bit of configuration, but not much. You need to have an account registered with Juremy, which you sign into then, and then as you are moving in the translation grid or perform concordance searches, the plugin will work for you. Okay, so let's go into demonstration. So for that, let me start memoQ. And as you can see, I have the plugin already installed and enabled. And then when memoQ starts, it starts up a separate window, the Juremy browser window that is managed from within memoQ. And this is the biggest news for today. The plugin we had published until yesterday had a much more cumbersome setup process, I would say, and its user experience was also not as good as these new plugins. So I'm very happy that to have this, which is a really smooth way of integration. Okay, more about the setup later if you have time, but let me just open project. What we can see here is a summary from the corporate sustainability due diligence directive made by a prominent law firm. So they kind of, make that summary for you to know the gists with pointers. And let's say that we want to translate this document. Yeah, this is the original URL white case. Is the law firm that compiled this nice summary for us. And before going into details of how the plugin works and how you can customize and so on, I would just like to call out the Juremy interface itself. What is it even that you are seeing here? So you can see that we are in this row in memoQ. So a search automatically triggered for the source text. Here we can see the whole query text if we expand it. And then we get term matches. IATE is the term base we are using. And this lists all the terms that occur in our query text. We can page through them. And I will tell you in a bit about what are all these metadata, or at least the most important one of those. And also here we would have the corpus matches if there were any, like exact or fuzzy matches. For this example, it's only the term-based match. So let me quickly tell you. The linked ID always gets you to the original source. In this case, it is an IATE entry ID. And if I click it, it will open IATE, and you can dive into the information about that entry further. They bring nice definition and so on. We have the source and target side terms. You can see that there are multiple. We annotate with the body of the European Union that is maintaining that term. For example, the Parliament, Consilium, Commission, and so on. Because sometimes it is important, if you are translating for the Commission, you want to prefer Commission terms and so on. So you have the choice. And here we have the EUR-Lex topic indicators. They indicate which legislative domain of the 21 domains the specific term is from. For example, we can see that this is law, economics, business and competition, and environment, the corporate sustainability due diligence. These are the main domains that are intersecting here. And if I hover on the left, then I get a bit more expanded information, not just that it's environment, but actually about environmental impact and so on. So, and later we have the option to set preferences based on these. Actually, let's do it now. Let's prefer results from the environmental domain. And you can already see that even the term base now brings up those kind of terms at a high position. Okay, maybe that much about the IATE term extract and first approximation. So let me also show you the matches. Let me just show you that when I'm traversing the grid, now I'm in a new row. What is the objective of the CSDDD? Then it automatically triggers the search in Juremy. And here I get fuzzy matches. Like this is a pretty short source segment. The fuzzies are not very relevant now. But let's find, I have in my notes that segment number 8 is actually a quoted takeover from the legislation itself. When you see quotes in your legal documents, you have good chance that it's a takeover from somewhere, and you might want to actually see the original. So Juremy performed a fuzzy find for us. You can see that bearing the quotation marks, this is actually almost an exact match. But anyway, it would surface it for us. And we can check the original in German. Actually, you can make further edits to the query. You are not restricted to what source text is coming from memoQ. You can also, refine it if you think that it's taken over from somewhere, and edit parts or cut parts. And Juremy will take that all into account. You can change the target language to any of the 24 languages of the EU. So let's say we want a French version, or we want an Irish version. Okay. And yeah, I don't need to set it back as I'm performing further searches. It will just set the options back. Okay, so now you could see already the term base matches and the fuzzy matches. There are options on the fuzzy level, the threshold you are willing to receive. Let me just show you the concordance search yet, and then I can very quickly show you more about the technical details of the integration, like, the window, how you switch between them and so on. Okay, so let's say that you suspect some term and want to look it up. So let me pick this protection of environment. Sorry, protection of environment. I select it and I trigger a memoQ concordance search with Control K. You can see that the concordance window triggered, but at that moment already, you didn't even have to press concordance. This search triggers in Juremy, and it is already bringing you like terminology hit for that selection, or for example, an exact phrase match, and so on. So these are the two main ways how you can automatically or manually trigger Juremy, either automatically by traversing the grid or by performing a concordance search for a specific phrase. Now, about the layout. My screen here at the presentation on the laptop is quite constrained. That's why I have these side by side. Ideally, you have a big screen and you can still put them side by side, but leave more space for them. Let me show you that in that case, how would the Juremy results look. Yeah, then you have the option to bring in the side panels with, all the filters and options that I won't really have time to go into now. And if you shrink the view, then you have to click Search and Display Settings to bring in this same options that otherwise would have been at the side. So the bottom line is, depending on how you size the Juremy browser plugin, it might display slightly differently, optimizing for the screen size. But now let's take the case that you are also having to translate on the laptop and you don't have enough screen size and you rather keep memoQ full screen. So you can see this raise on match option ticked in Juremy. And that means that as you are translating, and I don't know, I'm clicking into a lucky segment, it has a quotation mark in it, then I didn't do anything. When I clicked into that segment, Juremy started searching in the background, and as soon as it has a result, a non-term-based result, because most of the time you have term-based results, there are a lot of terms, but you have a fuzzy match, then it brings the Juremy browser window to the front. So you can instantly see what was fuzzy matched, target side, just goes through the results, digest it, and you can use Alt-Tab, the standard way, to switch back to memoQ and continue your work there. So this is beneficial. This you couldn't do with the old plugin. There was no automatic management of the integrate. Well, it was not an integrated browser. So you really had to keep them side by side or keep switching between them. But yeah, with this new integration, you can have this benefit. Yeah, and here's a stem phrase. But yeah, please try to keep it visible if you have the space. Generally, it's a better experience. Okay, I think I would have so many more things to show, but conscious of time, let's maybe return to the slides. And maybe please just tell me, Helga, if we are within 5 minutes maybe of what was allocated for me, and then I will just try to speed up.
Actually, I think you will have 10 minutes if you want to, so it should be fine.
Okay, then let me go through the rest, not rushing too much. And if there's any question or time left later, if there's a question about specific feature, I can show it. Okay, so now that you saw how it looks in practice, I might just quickly want to show how to install it. Okay, so for that, let me close memoQ. Actually, let me show that if you have time. Basically, the installation looks like You download a zip file that we have linked on the manual, unzip it. There will be a DLL. You have to trust it with right-click properties because, files downloaded from the internet are marked as untrusted by default and with good reason by Windows. And if you don't unblock that file, you can copy it to memoQ, but it still won't work. Okay, so you have downloaded the DLL file, you copy it to the memoQ add-ins folder, you start up memoQ, and what is very important that in the TM plugin options of memoQ, you enable the plugin, and also you tick the perform TM plugin lookup when working in the translation grid, and also tick the consult TM plugin for concordance. These are the two options, generic memoQ options, that let our plugin get notified about when you are moving in the grid or when you are performing the concordance. If you have the plugin enabled but don't tick these, the plugin won't know about your searches. And this being like an online service, it's very important to talk about data security and the privacy of your documents and your queries. Like us being a privacy-aware developer and also a lawyer who is very interested in copyright and also cloud services. We put great focus on this. So all the communication between this Juremy integrated browser and our servers are encrypted with best practices. On our servers, we don't have any kind of query retention. We are not retaining even for QA purposes. We are not retaining during free trial. Practically, we don't know what you are searching apart from statistics like, the length of your query text in characters. And this is in the best interest of both parties. And the servers themselves are hosted in the EU. Specifically, we are hosting with Hetzner's data centers. So we can comply with data protection or like cross-country data sharing laws. And on our blog, you can read more in depth about our approaches. Or if you are developing services, similarly, you can read about the practices we use to avoid some common pitfalls. Okay, how you can get long-term access to Juremy. Beyond the free trial, we have subscription plans, and it is important to highlight that memoQ integration is available in the advanced plan. And we have both freelancer and team plan, where the team plan has the flexibility that you are getting a given number of seats, but you can reallocate those seats every month among members. For example, if you have an in-house translator team of 5 linguists, you can buy like a 10-seat license, and 5 seats are used by your team, and 5 other seats you can redistribute to external translation suppliers on a project basis or as you see fit, so that they can also benefit from using Juremy, raising the quality you get and making your review work easier as well. What are our plans for future development? Well, we have a lot of plans for Juremy, the service itself, expanding with data sources, more filters, more customizability, and so on. But in terms of memoQ, well, we have just implemented the new plugin which integrates the Juremy browser directly under memoQ's control. So that's a great improvement. Yay. But we are also looking to providing you the more traditional kind of translation memory or term-based plugin that would provide you the results through the memoQ interface, so you would get them inside memoQ. And there the challenge we have to solve is that you saw that Juremy provides very context-rich results, and sometimes we can't overload you with all that information through the memoQ interface, you might want the top 5 matches in terms of term-based or translation memory, but not like 2000. So there need to be clear priorities. And that's an interesting problem to solve. How do you get what's relevant and how you don't lose out on something that might be important for you? And also we are interested to provide a translation memory plugin on the server side, for team benefits. Okay, yeah, and I encourage you to sign up for our trial and try Juremy, try the memoQ integration, and get feedback from your team, how they like it. And we are always open to questions and feature requests or suggestions. We are very open to working with our customers. Okay, and maybe I stop short here, and let's see if you have any feature either about the integration itself or the Juremy features. If you have time, we can dive a bit deeper into that.
Thank you so much, Adam and Robin, for these very interesting and useful presentations. We have 5 questions so far, so I would like to encourage everyone that if you have questions, please feel free to ask them away. Let me ask the first question. How is the licensing model for LSP? Is it installed on the memoQ server and then available for every project and translators?
Okay, so yeah, referring back to this last slide, I think it's mostly covered. But for LSPs, you can have this team subscription and distribute the seats as discussed. It is not available yet as a traditional plugin or a server plugin. So your translators would need to use its desktop integration, use it themselves. But yeah, in the future plans, we have this kind of integration that you're asking. So thank you.
Thank you. The next question, does Juremy plugin work with memoQ-Web?
Maybe Joet can better answer here, but my
No.
memory is
it
that
doesn't work because it's connected to the desktop client. These settings can only be set up in the desktop client, so that would be a completely different use case. So currently, because the setup occurs on the client side, not on the desktop client side, it's only desktop client.
If I understand it correctly, if we had a traditional translation memory plugin, then maybe it could plug into this memoQ-Web on the server side.
Correct.
Right?
Yes, if it can be set up on the server, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. The next question is, would you consider adding a pay-per-request pricing option? 29 euros per month is the lowest price per month with CAT tool integration, which is quite a lot of those us who might only use it very sporadically because of the nature of the text we work on. If there was a pay-per-request option, we could just switch it on for the text on which it would be useful.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So already the monthly option is like self-manageable. Like if you have a translation project for a few weeks, you can today buy a monthly and then later cancel it. So you are not using it beyond. So that's already a relatively economic option. And if you take into account like the price for a page of a legal translation and the number of pages you translate in like a week or two and how much time Juremy lets you save, then we like to believe that at this price point it's a very cost-effective option. But yeah, there's always like different cases. We had at some point considered a usage-based model, but it was not very popular. Our experience was that people like to pay and then use without like a limit, like within acceptable use, rather than have an unbounded construct, even if it would be cheaper. So I would say today that is our most economic option.
Thank you. The next question is, can you summarize the pricing?
Yeah. So we have monthly or yearly plans. The yearly
Can you
being
also share the screen now?
yeah, I think I had a slide, but it only includes the recap of the features. That's already something. And you can consult the actual prices on our pricing page. I'm not including it here because, the prices might vary. Like next year, it might be different than today. But basically, with the freelancer, you have the choice of basic versus advanced. For the memoQ integration, you would need to go with the advanced. And there, if you have a consistent workload, then the yearly plan is worth it more. And as the team, you have only the advanced as your option. And there you can have different seat sizes, like 10 seats, 50 seats, what suits your use case. And you can see that in the advanced, beyond memoQ integration, there are additional features you are unlocking.
Thank you. Next question. Also, is the installation done on the memoQ server or on the client?
Yeah, I think we covered that this is a desktop integration for now. But anyone who is interested on having it on the server side, please contact us because, as I said, there are these use cases, interesting challenges, how we prioritize certain kind of results, especially on the server side, because there we have less transparency into the documents. It's their domains that the end users are processing. We would be interested to gather your use cases and discuss how it could work. Not technically, but that the results are actually useful and relevant.
Thank you. Next question. Is the plugin available for free as part of the memoQ advanced plan?
The advanced plan is Jeremy's. I don't really know memoQ's pricing.
Yeah, this is kind of maybe we can ask for a little bit of a clarification. So, but yeah, as for memoQ pricing, using the TM SDK, basically the integration point where Udemy is integrated, is absolutely free. So no matter what memoQ license you hold, as long as you have the license, you are eligible to use memoQ. Even in the T Pro, you can use Udemy without any restrictions. What you only have to consider is your Udemy plan.
Yes, I think that's what the question was about, whether Juremy is included free of charge if someone has a certain kind of subscription for memoQ. And the answer to that is no, as Adam pointed out, because you need to purchase a separate plan from Juremy. So that's a different subscription if that's what the question was gearing towards.
Thank you. No pay-per-use plan, that is the question.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. What would be the time span, pay-per-use? I guess you are thinking of something like daily access or weekly access. It's very hard to put a price on this already. Just to tell you an interesting story, there are these tenders that the various bodies of the EU publish every few years where the vendors for the next 4 years are selected. And there's a day when companies or their representatives are writing the tests, the quality tests that will basically determine their acceptance in a high factor, other factor being pricing. And on those days, the Juremy servers are practically melting and some users might even use a trial account at that point, And for one day, you could use Juremy, let's say, even if you paid 10 euros, 20 euros, 30 euros, and then your company wins 4 years worth of EU tenders for translation, you know, how do you balance these? So it's very hard to tell that, okay, for 1 month, this is a fair price. For one day, this is a fair price. Because even in one day, you can have such tremendous value that, this kind of pricing is very, very hard. I mean, if people have ideas and options, we are always open to hear, because it's super hard for us to do properly. But for now, we didn't find a good model that fits everyone.
Okay, thank you. I would like to combine the next two questions, because the first is minimum number of seats. So what is the minimum number of seats for the team version? And the team cost is for 10 users. How much is it for 5 users?
Yeah. So we used to provide 5-seat team plans, but we don't do it nowadays. So 10 seats, I would say, is the minimum. And one of the factors that is very hard also to articulate here is that the amount of value produced is very different for teams than for freelancers. If you are a freelancer, you have, a bounded opportunity to work, a bounded amount of time you can put into translation. So in some sense, the return you have is also capped. But as the team, as you are entering a team environment, like, just 1 or 2 users, like 2 terminologists in like 100 people a company, can provide enormous value. They are preparing terminology that will be then used across the whole company. So there, the number of seats and the value produced starts to diverge a bit. And we didn't really want to dilute the value offering by providing these very small seats. I mean, in exceptional cases, like you are a small LSP, you really have like 5 people working, you are not working with external vendors, then it's on a case-by-case basis, maybe. But I would rather lean to no.
Thank you. And with these 2 questions, I would say these are the last 2 questions we will answer in live today. So those that will be asked after this will be answered in writing. So there is a qualification to the earlier question. So it is the following: I mean paper number of queries. I may make many queries 1 week and no more queries for the next 2 months. It's not even a question, it's a qualification. Don't you have a comment on that? If not, then it's fine.
Oh yeah, I mean, maybe it's in return to me asking for clarification or context. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So with that, I would like to thank all of those who joined us today, and thank you for the presenters. See you in the next webinar, and have a good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are on the globe. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thanks, guys, for inviting me. See you.